Hello and welcome to Centre Court, thanks to Cobram Estate, Australia's most awarded extra virgin olive oil, grown, harvested and first cold press in northern Victoria. Right here on Centre Court is where we take a deeper look at the athletes, coaches and the voices who define netball in Australia. The conversation unfolds in 4 quarters, giving our guests room to share who they are away from netball, the highs and the lows of their career, and the future they are building beyond the court. It's honest, it's reflective, and it's the side of the game you don't always get to see. Today's guest is stepping into the spotlight and is one of the freshest faces in the Suncorp Super Netball. With more than 15 years of coaching experience across the Victorian netball pathway, including head coaching roles with the Geelong Cougars in the VNL, the Victorian Men's Open Netball team, and the Melbourne Vixens Academy, in 2026, he steps into the role of the head coach of the Melbourne Mavericks. I speak of none other than Gerard Murphy. Jez, welcome to the couch.
Thanks for having me, Kels.
I'm very excited to talk to you. You and I have known each other for a very, very long time. You've even coached me, but we'll get to all of your coaching and your background later. But quarter one, thanks to Priceline, we start off with a very simple question. What season of life are you in at the moment?
What season of life am I in? I don't know how to start. How do you answer that? Season of life, basically an exciting, I guess, season of my life. I think it is coming into coaching professionally. It's been a dream, I guess, or was a thought for a while. Probably a bit scared to say it was a dream, but it is a dream. It's a dream role for me, and to be able to do, work with the athletes in something the sport I love and have loved for a long time and given a lot of time to as well. So very happy to be in this next stage. And for me as well, still be able to balance that with my work and other commitments has also been, I guess, is a bit of a privilege for me. And I'm grateful for the Mavs team being able to make that work for me too.
We want to find out who you are away from the court, because I think that's something that in netball, we need to know who our personalities are and get to know them away from what we see day to day. But for you, you speak about all the different roles that you play at the moment. Can you give us an insight into an average day for Jez at the moment? Because it is jam-packed.
Yeah, I guess I had coached, 18 of 21 days, I think, in the last couple of weeks. No burnout though. Like I've learned to manage that quite well now and work in between. But yeah, we'll get up and walk the dogs every day. So that's part of the ritual, is waking up and then taking my 2 dogs, Fred and Gigi, for a walk. They're King Charles Cavaliers. They're awesome dogs, recommend. And yeah, get that going, do some stretching and things always, just to get a bit of balance, and then get my day started. Usually check some emails if I need to straight away for work, make sure my schedule for the day is sorted, given I switch between coaching and work and my men's program and other commitments like committees and things that I'm still doing on the side. So trying to manage that, and then get my butt moving into shower and get breakfast, and then head off to my day depending on what it is. So most of the days at the moment, it's Mavs in the morning on a few days a week or a couple of days a week. So get that done, by lunchtime, and then I might kick into my normal corporate work after that. And then now without my VNL commitments in the evenings, things have changed a little bit, where I used to always be driving to Geelong. So I've been doing the drive to Geelong for 12 years now, almost, usually Monday, Wednesdays, and then changing over.
Great place, Geelong.
It is really good. I love the people and the feeling, of course, of the Geelong community has been really nice. And I've stayed in Clifton Hill living, the whole time. But kind of just became part of the ritual and just driving there. So yeah, and then, work is fairly flexible. I'm in the office sometimes, but from home a fair bit too. So obviously that helps with just managing time, because it gives me the extra hour to work rather than sort of transit time and things for that. So yeah.
You are an overachiever, I think some people would say, but also an inspiration, because to be able to be a head coach of a team, still keep a corporate role, an osteo as well. You're still osteoing on the side.
A lot less as things have picked up a bit more, but I still treat, I've got a book of patients that I've been seeing for over 10 years now. So try to make sure I maintain that. And the osteo part for me, I guess, is a bit of a social outlet. So it is also connecting with people that I've known for so long who are just really good. They're all good people. So it's quite nice catching up with them. It is a catch up as well as, the therapy part of it. So I still make sure I keep my hours and everything else and maintain registration and insurance and all those things to make sure. So yeah, it is a bit of a balance trying to make sure I keep that up. But it is nice to have that on the side as well.
It'd be a lot of you being organised, but there's definitely some people in your life that help these cogs run.
Yeah.
Who is the most influential person in your life?
I don't know. It's almost me now, probably.
Love that. It can be that.
It's mostly just me, really. Over time, like I've learned to compartmentalize stuff better. So, when I'm in coaching mode, I'm coaching. And then when I'm in work, I'm at work. And yeah, if I'm in transit, I optimize time as much as possible. I don't really watch a lot of TV, so that's a big part. As I say to a lot of people, is like, oh, do you have kids? And I'm like, no, I don't have kids. And that's a big part of it. I say, men's is one kid, Mavs there's two kids.
Gigi.
Yeah, the dogs and another thing, and then I've got corporate work, that's just work, and then I've got these other things on the side. So it's similar to, really to what other people do in their lives. Obviously, I just, you spread my time differently to what others do, and I like to optimize my time, I guess, as much as possible, hit the gym still. And that's what I know. I've stretched too far. If I'm not hitting the gym the number of times per week, then I know I've overstretched myself a little bit, so I need to just rebalance again. So I have little cues now that I know when I'm starting to do too much, or I haven't said no enough, or worked out what I'm going to do, or asked for help enough too, which is another one that I've got better at doing over time.
I'm also terrible at that. Maybe I'll ask for some advice.
Not that good at it.
Yes, but we'll get to that later, your mindset and how maybe who you are as a person impacts how you coach.
Yeah.
But let's cast our mind back to you getting involved in netball.
Yeah.
How did you find your way into the sport that we all love? I know your mum was an avid netballer. Is that your in?
Yeah, definitely my family and my mum. I'm from a family of 5, and we grew up in Victoria, in Seymour, in sort of central Victoria. Great little town to grow up in, pretty quiet. But, my brothers would play football. We're a football netball town, so my brothers would play football. My mum would be umpiring and coaching and stuff on the netball courts. And because I was younger than my brothers, they'd be doing that. My sister would be floating around the courts. So I would be babysat by my cousins, who would be passing balls to me, teaching me those things, and then just running around the netball court, from the age of like 3, basically. I remember being at the courts and then, joining my first team with the girls. We were like 7. I think we started like tiny kids, and with all my friends, and we played through all of under 11s, under 13s, under 15s. I was able to play still with the girls, and we won, a lot of grand finals as we went through. I had a great group that we played with, and my aunties and cousins, and then I played mixed. And when I was playing mixed, it was with my cousins, my brothers and sisters, like everyone was involved. So it was quite nice, and a good community feel. And I guess that I, used to travel with my mum. She would coach, like state titles and those things. She would coach the Hume region, which it was then. And we travel away. Literally, I'd carry bags and just support them and stuff as I'd be able to go away with them, because I wasn't able to play in those ones, of course. But all the same, just being around it a lot. And that was kind of where it all formed. And just used to do schoolboys. So we started doing that, mixed and that in the schoolboys championships. And then as we got older, just sort of got better. And I was always like pretty good anyway, just was like, and I really enjoyed it. And then, I moved to Melbourne when I was 18 to start uni, as most sort of country or sort of semi-regional people do. And then I joined the first state team in the men's program when I was 19. And then made some of my best friends ever for now, like still got them now from there, and kept playing for a while. So that's sort of where my little pathway for my playing went like that.
So those of you who don't know you from your playing days, what position were you?
Goal defense through to center, probably. More goal defense, wing defense, probably. But now spend more time in center wing attack, probably. Still defend if I need to, but definitely I find it's easier to play coach, and as I've got smarter, I think, and understand the game better, suits me better playing in the attack.
So you talk about being around netball and just going on those trips and just being around the court. Is there a moment in time back when you were young that you thought, this is for me, this is a passion project now, this is absolutely where I want to be? Or has it sort of developed over time?
Yeah, probably more developed. It's interesting. I was quite a decent basketballer too. So Seymour has a great basketball program, a basketball team, which is run by Craig Hockley there basically. And so they have, they play in the country basketball league and things like that. And I just remember one trip and they were like, oh, what would you do? And I was like, oh, I would play netball, like actually as my professional sport, which was weird because I think it just came out like without even thinking about it. And I love basketball still, like still enjoy it, but definitely, netball, I was just better at it and I just enjoyed the sport more. So that was probably, even as I would have been 17 then, maybe 16. That was probably a bit of a point where I was like, actually, I'm better at this. And if I could play it, I would do this as, we always used to joke with the guys that I played state with, was like, if we could just do this as a job, play, as a job, and just do this and train every day, like be at the Institute of Sport, or, that type of dream, pipe dream almost, I guess it was, to think about that would be so fun. Like that would be the best. I'm kind of, doing it now in a different way.
Yes, you are an interviewer's dream, because you've segued into our quarter two, which is...
Talk to us.
No, it's brilliant, which is our netball journey, thanks to Cobram Estate, Australia's most awarded extra virgin olive oil. And quarter two is about your netball journey. Now, we've touched on where you started out, but let's talk about the Victorian men's netball program.
Yep.
It is booming.
Yeah.
Now it is really taken leaps and bounds, and we've now got the Australian Kelpies that have a name. You've been involved in the program for a really long time. Can you tell us about your journey to coaching, playing in that program?
Yeah, I started playing, what was that, 2001, I guess. I started in the men's program, in the 23 and under program, pretty new. We travelled, I did some New Zealand tours and some Fijian things, which were awesome, and represented Australia in the junior team then, captain the 23 and under side as well. That was good learning and development. And then once I hit sort of the open Vic team, probably lasted a couple of years, but just coming from country Victoria, we weren't very well off or anything. So financially just became very difficult. I was trying to work and start trying to do state team, which is all self-funded. So, they were costing $5,000 a year. And, I had a credit card bill and a loan bill of sort of, by the end of it, like $40,000 probably, car loan and all this stuff. And it was just kept incrementing up. And I was lucky. I was starting to work part-time while I was trying to study. I did my science degree first, or human biology degree first. And then while I was playing netball, and that became harder as it got up. And then I luckily landed my first job at Ernst & Young, which is my brother was working there, and the team were awesome. So I was able to flex my time a bit and start to get into the corporate kind of vibe of things. But on the men's side, I was in that program for 6 years maybe, and then dropped out of it after that, but still kept in touch, but played the 6. And then 4 years ago, I returned as the coach after a 10-year hiatus, I guess, of it, and stepped back in. And the boys program is awesome to coach, like so enthusiastic. The guys obviously don't get paid, they pay everything, but they try to emulate as much as they can, like what a professional program would be, the amount of training we do per week, their gym, they do their own rehab, like they obviously fund all that stuff themselves, open to learning and environment. So that's just a really nice environment to coach in. And also, I'm not sure people, I guess, identify how the caliber of the athletes and the talent that they have, it's really hard. Like the sort of New South Wales Victorian kind of rivalry that is at nationals is, the best standard of men's netball in the world. Really, like, the games that Kelpies in New Zealand play, quite large, whereas the games between, for example, New South Vic are, 3 and 4 goals, and they're like 40 goal kind of total games. So they're really low scoring. It is just tough, and it's great. Like, it's really fun. It's exciting. It's super challenging. And so that's part of the love of that one, is it's really nice to help them. And of course I came from that as well, so giving back to them a bit. So that's sort of on the men's side, where we've got to now, I guess. Yeah.
I love hearing you talk about that, because netball is one of the few sports where men are in the minority. Yeah. Is there a point for you where it's difficult? It's a difficult environment to be a male in a female dominated industry, or has it always been
like that?
Yeah.
Pretty much always been like that, actually. So, look, I was lucky. I think it's not the same for all the boys that just want to play netball. Like, they just want to play sport. Same as the girls that wanted to play football and stuff. And now that they have a chance to do that, which I think is awesome, that people that want to play in that sport actually have the chance to do that. But for me, it was pretty lucky, because where I came from, my, friends and cousins and mum and that were fairly involved in this ocean. And I did other sports as well. So it was, kind of okay seen like that. So that was probably a bit easier to do it that way. But it is hard sometimes where you're battling a bit, like the boys can't get funding, for example, from state government or from Sports Australia or anything like that, because it's kind of not recognised by Netball Australia, really. Men's, to be honest, it's not. So it creates sort of some challenges, and there's, a ethical challenge, I guess, at times as well with that. But, it'll, over time, it'll, you just got to keep fighting the good fight and what is the right thing to do, which is for, everyone to participate in their sport and try to encourage and help that as much as I can with whatever platform I have, which is, nothing. But
Yes.
here in this type of thing is encouraging, and making sure, for example, Giants do a pretty good job as well at including the men in their training program and Mavs Collingwood did before that. You would be familiar with that, like that they were regulars, and we have regulars in our program as well. The girls love having the regular boys there to train and play with. It's great competition, standard setting, and it's just nice to have them involved as well as our female training partners. So it just blends them in nicely, and it's a great way to include them. And so, yeah.
I think a lot of the teams are doing that now, which is really beneficial to their environments, I think, as well. Coming up against different players is beneficial anywhere. But let's move into the Melbourne Mavericks. Now, you find yourself in a head coaching role entering into the 2026 season. It's massive. You've got new recruits everywhere. You've come into a role later on in a preseason than normal. Can you give us some insight into how it all came about?
Yeah. Well, I interviewed, pretty early last year, like August, I think it was. Shay made contact. She's like, "Hey, you interested in?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm interested in talking about it." Obviously, the Vixens role came up, so that partly triggered, I guess, my thinking. And for the last 3 years, I've been like, am I ready to take coaching full time yet or not? And so that was part of it. Is, am I really ready yet? Not really. I want to keep working and earn a bit more money in my corporate job first. So kept doing that. And that was probably the delay, really. I'd had potentially another couple of opportunities interstate for SSN coaching, in different cycles, 6 years ago, 3 years ago, when there were various transitions and things. But I'm not really moving yet. It's too much turbulence and I wasn't sort of ready. So when we had the discussion, Melbourne-based team, I know Richo, I know Shay, I know a few of the girls. The boys have been training there and I'd been to a few training sessions and I was thinking, okay, this probably be okay. And yeah, really, like for Vixens, I was like, hey, it'd be fun, good to coach Vixens, as a more stable program, stable environment. So there's positives to that. But then as we started talking more, did my interview first round, hey, this was pretty good, it could be a good fit here. And then the second round we went through and it went quite a while. It was a long second round interview, went way over time. And so we had a discussion after that, which was like, I think that went really well. But I'm not sure I can commit to doing it yet. I was obviously nervous about change, and all change is a bit like that too, right? As humans anyway, it is a big shift, because I would have left my job and I was thinking, I'm not really sure I'm ready yet. So we moved through, waited a little bit. We sort of stayed warm while we were doing things. And then November was getting close and they still hadn't announced yet. And we were keeping in contact. And Shaza said, oh, look, are you interested in coming on just to help? We're starting court sessions in November. You want to come on board? I said, yep, let's try it, kind of thing. So I was interim assistant coach during November. And back working with Richo, we worked together 15 years ago with Falcons, and with Margan, we'd had a lot of success as well and played together. So I knew that we would work together very well, but also to get to know the rest of the support team and what was structured and how it kind of felt. You hear things on the side like, it might be disorganized or a bit of disorganized chaos or organized chaos. Or, it's corporate, it's a bit different. And so it was good to get, I guess, a sense of what it is really like on the ground. And we'd moved to MSAC, which is at the Melbourne Sports and Aquatic Centre, which is a very different venue to Waverley, where the girls were training, where gym was separate, driving everywhere, not a high performance facility, a great netball facility, but not high performance, whereas MSAC is a terrific facility, really. And so being there also was, I think, another positive bonus. We got an office there set up, all those things. So it was a good tester, and I said, look, I reckon I can do this. And I think I can do a part-time work as well. I think I can keep my work going and still meet expectations of what I'm required to do at work. We'd finished a large transition program at work. So that huge workload that had happened up until July, basically it sort of calmed down a bit and we were moving into a BAU part of the next stage of that. So I thought, hey, maybe I can do this. And then that 4 weeks was a great test in November to go, oh, actually, I can manage coaching and stuff, I need a little bit of a lean on from Richo, and I need to manage my schedule and make sure that everyone's clear on hours and things. And as we've worked it through, it got a bit easier. And then through December, we were like, cool, we can do it. Let's go ahead. And obviously Mavs were looking at Nolene, and other things. And as someone who, in corporate is like totally fine. He's like, why wouldn't you? Like, see if you can.
Even I can attest to that.
That's what I mean. It's like, why wouldn't you explore? It would be silly for Mavs not to have still continued to explore stuff. But I also identified for them as well that I'm a good fit for this environment as well. I'm fairly flexible. I understand the corporate model as well, like that SEN exists in. And so there's always a balance between, and in all organizations really, there's always a balance between cost and benefit. And there has to be a bottom line. Companies have to make money to survive. So while from a pure employee perspective, you'd be like, oh, well, why can't we do that? It makes a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense. And this is part of my corporate talk really.
Yeah.
And how I communicate with, a lot of my team as well. He's like, yes, there's decisions, but also sometimes they're not critical or essential. Like we can do without them. And at this point in time, let's put it on, the next stage and let's see if we can do it again. So I'm comfortable with that. And sometimes you just got to run with what you got. What's the point stressing about it? It's like, that's where we are. So what can we do with what we got? Let's make the most of that and then move on. So I think that kind of philosophy or idea sits quite well in this environment.
I was about to touch on that. You seem like the perfect personality to take on a role like Mavs, and especially the personality of someone to jump in later in a preseason. You seem assertive and sure of where you're going and what you want a program to look like, but there would have been challenges coming in December, having known what they've been working on prior to that. Can you talk us through the challenge of jumping in later and maybe then trying to find what your version of the Melbourne Mavericks looks like?
Yeah. I'd obviously had some involvement. I watched a lot of netball. I watched pretty much every SSN game, last 5 years, basically every game. So, watching all the games, so you have a pretty good idea. And some of the athletes I know who have a longer term relationship, like Molly and things. So I have some insight, which I've known for a while and connecting with regularly. And then through the interview process and post, was maintaining a bit of contact anyway. So I had an idea where they were up to. And they were literally only ready to start court anyway. And I think given the new players in, even though Pav and Jesse had come, stepped in as temp replacement players that year, still newish in, and plus Sasha, so some locals. And then the girls coming from interstate, it was an opportunity for a reset because new players coming in like Jamie and Rue is like, okay, well, we got it. And Tara, we got a chance here. I don't think there's that much preset, people going, we have to do it this way. Like, this is it. It's a chance to go, cool, let's reset. And it was a lot of simplify. So I was just like, we just need to clarify what are our basic principles that we're going to function by when we attack, when we defend. Let's just nail those things. So we just rebuild a foundation again so that it was clear what my language and interpretation was and what expectations were. And then once we got into that, started to communicate about how my philosophy of tools become unit strategies, become team strategies, and all the tools are there for you to use at your whim whenever you choose to do it. And against certain opponents, those tools will work better. And it's just equipping, but also for us then to have some consistency so that I can communicate with you about, hey, try this tool against this person, and straight away, oh yeah, I'll give it a go. And we've given you enough chance to experiment. And I'm fine with a bit of failure, especially now as you're building a program. Like, failure is going to be a part of it, but we're about fail fast. So he's like, fail quickly, learn quickly, communicate, let's move on. Like, we don't have time to stuff around and complain about it. It's like, it's cool, you made a mistake, can we do something different now? And let's go from there. So look, I've been coaching long enough in head coach roles. I've coached in winning teams and championship teams. I've coached in teams where those teams became losers as well, like literally one player difference, and it goes from top of the ladder to bottom. And so those are all part of, I think, of a coach development and important things to do. Because if you just coach and win all the time, you don't know how to rebuild a team and rebuild or transition a team in or, set a new direction that's not too overwhelming or complicated, and make sure everyone feels comfortable and clear that, cool, here, what are you expecting of me? And what are the tools that we've got to be successful? So
I think my biggest question out of that, and you might be tight-lipped on it, is what's your version of the Mavs this year then? What are those basics that you're really honing in on at the moment?
Look, it's all pretty standard netball stuff, I think. It's more just communicated in a way, for example, we have a center pass to entry philosophy of like, here are the different tools that you have to use, basic width and depth, normal stuff, but how you're preparing for that. The way I coach is a lot more scenario based. So it's like, okay, cool. So if you receive center pass, you got these options next.
Love it.
What if your defenders do this? Here are some of the options that you've got to think about. Let's map a few of those options. So it's not structured to the point of, basketball set plays, but they're plays that that if this happens, we're cool. Like,
And it allows instincts.
We've got options. And it's those tools become instinctive, right? And then they move at the same right time, and the shooter knows when to come out of the circle because the middies have separated enough for the space to open up, like stuff like that. And it's okay for a middie to go to corner, like from a transverse. You can launch that ball; it's totally fine. And look, today we did there was a zigzag happening, and like literally channel to channel to channel, which in some netball circle, like absolutely no deal. But for me and Mavs, I'm like, look, you're top level athletes. If we have a hesitation passing a ball across 10 meters, we've got an issue. Like, it's a 10-meter pass for elite athletes. You can pass the ball. It's different if you're under 13s. That's probably not something that you'd want to execute. But for elite level athletes, and like with the men, you pass that ball. Like, if someone's available and that's part of spreading the court, make defenders make decisions, open up another channel and get ready for the next ball. So we're just working on lots of that stuff.
You got the positive of Jamie Lee Price being able to jump and land that ball on the circle edge of the quarter anyway. You talk about the teams that you've been involved in. Some have been at the top of the ladder, some have been down the bottom.
Yeah.
You're picking up a Mavs team at the moment that has been near and about.
Yeah.
Hasn't excelled, hasn't truly disappointed and finished 8th. Is that exciting for you to know that you can climb?
Yeah, I mean, coming into a team at the top is hard also. Like, taking on a team like Vixen's, even unchanged lineup is how much can you change them? I like, and enjoying the challenge and also the stimulation of challenging these players to create something new together. So create new combinations and connections, create new strategies that are going to work for you together. Like if Shimmy's in shooter, it's a different strategy to when Pav's in shooter. So let's embrace the differences but know that there are differences and, exploit those advantages that we have. So it's pushing those ones harder, and we want them to be different. Because against defenders, coming from a defender who's like, if you change from Shimona and that to Pav and Sash even, they're like all completely different players, completely different styles and attributes from a thinking, from a flow, from however they play. So completely different. So you switch that up and they're all performing at an 8 out of 10. As defenders, frick, that's hard to stop. Because you can't just change, like even for anyone when you come up against a different opponent, especially defensively, it's very hard to switch that on in 1 minute. Like it takes a quarter or so, and that could be enough for the attacking team to get the advantage. So I like the idea, and I think the girls are enjoying the idea of like embracing that, but also making sure that they're prepared for it too, not setting them up for failure, which is something I'm, try to be considerate of them is, hey, Kels, come on for 5 minutes and win the game for us. He's like, that's pretty hard to do. And it used to happen to me sometimes as well. And you're I guess, in a fear state almost of, well, how am I going to succeed here? I'm going to fail. And I think for athletes having some, I guess there's a way of me saying to you, I've got confidence in you, come on and, do this 5 minutes, but then you're not on again for 5. Is like, well, what does that send to you? Rather than, I'm not expecting you to win the game, you're going to stay on the next quarter regardless. Okay, well, that's a very different psychological mindset for you as the athlete coming on. And so that's, I guess, goes in a little bit to my coaching philosophy as well, is balancing the line of competitive with supportive and being prepared for what might happen.
And communication and getting the best out of your players. I'm even going to use that in my own life. I'm going to take a little bit of your coaching and go fail fast. In an SSN season, there's 14 rounds and finals. It happens so quickly. You have to fail fast. I'm going to take that into my own life.
Yeah.
Before we get to dig a bit deeper, let's add some sugar thanks to Struddies. Gear up this season with Struddies. Shop with Struddies because they're your buddies. Struddies.com.au. All right, Jazz, we've got some quick fire. Favorite SSN dress? And I'm going to say you can't say the Mavs.
Probably Vixens.
Vixen?
Yeah.
Don't mind the Vixens?
No, I like the colour. Like the
Navy?
Yeah, boring,
What's your coffee order?
I don't drink coffee.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, sinner. I know, absolute sin. No, I'm not a caffeinated person. No coffee, no tea, no Coke, no lollies. I'm not a treats guy.
Okay, you are a lesson to all of us.
Yeah.
That is amazing. How can you do so much in your day without coffee?
That's how I do it. Is
Love
the
it.
life discipline of that stuff is like, just eat whole foods basically all the time and sleep if I need to. That's really
I might need to call you to be my mentor for life. Hardest opponent you've ever had to coach against? You've had some preseason games. Is there anyone that came out and you thought, oh, could have to change my plan for them in the season?
Oh, Mary was hard actually for Firebirds. Was tougher. Like Soph I've seen and coached enough against her, but Mary's done a bit of work.
Best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Best piece of advice ever given: surround yourself with people that can do the things that you can't do. So as a manager, a leader, or a coach, or whatever, you're not expected to know everything. Don't try to know everything. Ask for help and surround yourself with people that fill the gaps that you don't have the expertise in, and then leverage their skills, like use them for what they're good at as well.
Okay, I've got two more. So this leads me into my next one. What game would you relive?
What game would I relive? Our prelim final for Cougars the year before, 2018.
Did you lose?
When we lost by like 2 goals, and I made changes that I shouldn't have made or should have prepared and done a couple of things differently. Lessons learned. That happened. That's happened a lot actually, but learn from it and try not to repeat those ones.
Love it. And last one, are you superstitious? Do you have rituals before a game?
0.
Zero superstitious. That surprises me. I would have thought you would be that person. So no coffee, no superstitions.
Just all logic.
Just
So the point of like sometimes it's too bad, so I need to be a little bit more creative with it or something. But nah, like you know what, every day is different. You got to embrace, traffic might be bad, an athlete might be sick one day. Cool, like superstition, whatever socks I put on. I've tried it all. I've tried, the same socks, different socks. I've tried colors, whatever you do. I found over time, none of it, people, that's more a comfort thing. I'm comfortable regardless, so it doesn't matter.
Can I just tell you a story? I used to be superstitious, and then one time I had to ride a scooter to John Cain Arena for a Collingwood game because I could not get out of my car, out of my suburb, just with traffic. So that was the moment that I became not superstitious. So I agree with you.
You were fine, Steve.
I don't know if we won. Let's get into quarter 3 with Gerard Murphy. Now, actually, just off the top of that, I had to ask you how you say your name. Let's clear it all up here on Centre Court. It's Gerard, not Gerard, and you've given me a reason why.
It's Irish, not French, so it's definitely Gerard, like with the lower.
All right. So if I ever get it wrong in commentary, everyone has the right to come at me.
I don't mind, though, honestly. It's no big.
Let's talk about Jez Murphy, though, and you as a corporate person first, and how you're bringing that into being a head coach in the SSN. There's talk, though, that you're not a big name. You're not a huge name in netball coming in. I feel like that doesn't bother you.
No.
You want to go understated. You want to come in as yourself. But what have you learned from the corporate world that you can translate into being a head coach?
Yeah. Look, I think as head coaching has become more professional, of course, you're not just a sports coach. Like, you are actually more in like a general management kind of role where you liaise, coordinate between all the different pieces that come together. I mean, people may not sort of know now that as well as your assistant coach, your performance analyst, you've got a strength, like a physical performance coach, plus the physio, the doctor, the nutritionist, the sports psych, culture, well-being. So team manager, team ops. So there's a team of 14 officials, right, for a team of 10. So there's a lot of liaising and coordination that has to happen between them. So I think part of just a high performance team is also what I've learned a lot in corporate is about what does a high performing team look like, and what are the behaviors, and what are the ways that you can steer a group together. I think a lot of the stuff is around communication style and understanding. One of the things, I guess, in my early days of coaching in particular, I was a hothead, like very much so. Maybe you've seen some of that, Cal, in the early days.
I'm just saying, also me.
And a lot of athletes who come through that as well, who are, there's athletes who are a lot calm, and there's athletes that are a bit more on the adrenaline side and hot-headed, and I was definitely on that side. And that probably was a negative impact for me a lot in my actual sport. I think in tennis as well. I love tennis, but I was, and tennis is a very psychological sport. And I think over time realizing as part of my coaching and my professional life developed is getting feedback from staff members. And then you're like, oh, did you know that you do this? Actually, I did not, sorry. And did you know why this is impacting on your team members negatively? Okay. And then the interactions that you have with friends, family, athletes, what type of impact do you want to have with them? What type of interaction? So when you have an interaction with someone like whenever I see you, what do I want that interaction to be like? Do I want you to feel drained? Do I want you to be calm and feel like you had a positive experience or not? Like, what do I actually want to be like? What do you want to be seen as? And I think that was an important part of probably growing up and being less selfish about giving my opinion and yelling, like just, I think I was too opinionated and too aggressive, with a lot of stuff. So I think the corporate side helped me because it's slower, of course, than what sport is. And sport is very intense. And I found over time understanding myself a bit better and how to work and realize that there's ways you can have conversations that are much more fair for people, and not everyone's ready to listen to feedback directly and abruptly straight away. But if you feed gently and consistently, actually then they're more open to it as well. Feedback comes from a place of trust, I think is important. So that person has to, I think, understand that you're giving that feedback from a point of mutual benefit. Is like, if you're able to do this, I think it will help you. It will improve what you're trying to do, rather than I need you to do this for me. Is like, well, hold on, how does that work? Like, where does this happen? So I think that part of that was a big part of just me developing and growing and learning, and staying a lot more calm for me is a much better way for my brain to work when I'm not in complete cortisol mode, where I'm, in total fight mode, just like wanting to battle everyone and kill people on court. Is like that has a purpose at times, but when you go above your threshold, you can't control yourself, and I get better over time at like take myself off the court, for example, just like that, which is fine. Go have a breather for a minute, reset yourself, and then get back out. And so I probably have a bit more tolerance for that with athletes as well. And I'm okay with athletes that are still working through those things, who might be a bit rough around the edges, say, or in their behaviors. And that's all right. We can work through that. If you understand, hey, do you actually understand the reason why it's not because you're having an outburst, it's actually because the impact that your outburst has on yourself, on your performance, on your teammates. That's important. And what impact would you like to have instead? We can help with that. Let's work it out. And I think for that part of it, that was really valuable. And that's come from a lot of my corporate stuff, from learning change management. Even like communication is like, people need to understand why we're making a change. So let them know early. And then so that when it gets a month's time, we've already had communication about things. And it's not that people aren't disappointed with the message potentially, but at least they've had time to deal with the message. And I think those types of things have been really valuable in helping me, work out what I should communicate when and how. And then as a coach, because it's such in the moment, understanding a bit more about the impact of my language, is like the way you say stuff sometimes. And this isn't like more nitpicky about words. It's more, how's the message being heard, and verifying and validating that the message is heard. And also, do I even need to say it? Like, is that actually helping anyone, me saying this stuff sometimes? If you're in a shit state, or you're actually just not in a good position at the moment, is it really helpful for me barraging you with stuff sometimes? And so being a bit more tactical, I think, about that and that's still, I've stuffed that up still, right? And we're going to, because we're human as well, but at least being a bit conscious, like, sorry, I shouldn't have, I went a bit too much on that. And that's not saying that you're soft. It's just more like there's a time where we could manage that better, and we could work on that together better. So a lot of that stuff has come from my corporate work, like the stress of it and different priorities, and how all that stuff works has been quite good.
Is there some of that you're having to deal with at the moment, learning players on your team and having to, or even recognizing yourself in some of the players that you're coaching at the moment?
Yeah. Look, because I'm a bit more relaxed, and a lot of the players I've been coaching for a while. So whereas with the new team now, establishing those new things, whereas I probably take for granted a little bit that I have built enough trust with my existing group of athletes, even with, 70 males and females in the men's and mixed program. There's a lot in that program that I oversee and support. And in, Cougars, we have 40, 50 girls in that program as well, plus the boys actually. So then coming into new environment where a lot of these girls, that's also professional. So they're getting paid. So this is their life as well. So for me, it's been a bit of making sure that I appreciate that we don't, like sometimes I could not say anything to the others because they know. Whereas with new athletes, there's a reinforcement part, which is I'm ultimately accountable for their career. Like at this point, like I have a big role in how successful you are as an athlete right now. So that's a responsibility that's important. And so I need to help set you up for success. And then also be clear, if you're not meeting expectations, be clear about what the expectation is and how you can try to meet it. And there will always be times where you won't, but at least if we've tried and you've had a fair go at trying to do it, then our conversation at the end is, hey, I understand I wasn't able to meet expectations. We tried and I'm okay with that. And that is, while I disagree, I understand your position. Whereas sometimes I feel like when we get to those situations and you just throw someone out without giving them the opportunity to improve or work on the stuff or be specific about what it is, that's like same as work. You want to give people as much opportunity as they can to win and perform. So again, just trying. And look, these are all try to do. We're never going to do them perfectly, but I think at least if the intent is there and your action follows, more often than not, I think that is a big thing for trust. And
feels like being very clear on where the goalposts sit or where your expectations land, and communicating that seems like where you sit at the moment. And I'm very excited to potentially be sidelined for a Mavs game and see how you coach and you operate in moments. We are heading into quarter 4. It's been an incredible chat so far, Jez. Let's start quarter 4 thanks to HCF. The first question is the HCF moment that matters. What has been a moment that has shaped you the most, that has made you sure of where you're heading?
Probably pretty lucky in that I've had a lot of time working through that. I feel very confident that where we're at now and the direction that, and also where we're at now is the right direction. But I will pull that back a bit by actually revalidating with the athletes as we've been going, and with Richo and with externals, and being at events where people are saying, oh, the athletes seem in a good position, like just little data points that validate things. And you've got to be careful, of course, that my bias towards having a successful outcome is not me just listening to those things, that actually I am also aware of that. You want to hear a positive message too, but making sure that I've tested with the athletes about comfort with game style, game plans. Are they clear what we're trying to do? What do we need to work on next? How much involvement you want to have? So I feel like we are on track. And look, my goal for this year is, to build, maybe halfway through the season, we're going to be building nicely. We're probably 6 out of 10 kind of, I would say, in terms of game plan at the moment. And so if we can just up that a little bit more, and that's winning games and being pretty competitive in preseason. So that's a good sign. And then we're not even at sort of I guess I would say the next levels of strategy, I don't think. So I try to make sure we've kept it fairly simple, like level 1 stuff for now. And then gradually, as we're starting to execute those things, adding more on top of it now because everyone's getting comfortable. So I'm definitely more of a thinker, so overloading and talking too much, so like conscious of keeping the lid on it a bit, not pushing too much feedback on new players and athletes who are they've moved house, they've moved states, they're in a new team, they're in new positions with new connections. That's a lot of change for a human, like any human, let alone a person under stress who needs to perform. So trying to balance that by giving the right level of push and challenge, but also not overwhelming, which there's always going to be times we'll overwhelm and I'll go, oops, sorry, need to pull that back a little bit. So I think the start of it is there. I think, what do I say? Mavs will be dangerous, I think, is what, what I think for the girls is like coming up against them. I think there will be teams that will be like, you have to be careful because they're dangerous with the combos and the variety, super shotting anyone. I think, really solid mid-court and exciting defense. I think that there's a dangerous element, and we do want to play a little bit of a kind of exciting, if you can play some form of excitement, which is launch some long ball.
I was going to say Jamie Lee to Shimoda.
Absolutely. It's like, look, if it's on and we're on and we're hitting, like you should let the flow let it go. And don't be afraid to look at it as long as we can reflect and move on. So that's kind of the first part. And then hopefully we have a successful enough season, and we factor that, of course, by ladder position, but also athlete retention and athlete engagement, I think. And if majority of the athletes, as we get halfway through the season, like, hey, this is actually pretty good, we're part of something new and that we like being part of, I think that's probably the test for what sets up your legacy. And the players want to keep improving. No one wants to lose. So you don't need to overemphasize that too much.
So zoom out from the Mavs for a tiny bit. Every coach leaves a mark. You've got an opportunity ahead of you. 20 years' time, what mark do you want to have left on Australian netball?
I think it's probably more that the athletes felt like they all improved, they grew, they became better players and, people, and they felt like they were in an environment where they were supported to keep doing that. And I think that leads to success. And that success will be, finals appearances to grand finals to diamonds players. And that's an important thing for the athletes. And it's to represent one of, clearly the best netball team in the world and have for a long time. So I think supporting and growing them in to be able to be successful there as well is clearly a good thing. So yeah, keep doing that.
Legacy incoming. I cannot wait to see what you do with the Mavs this year. It has been such an insightful discussion with you, and I think any coach could listen to all of the bits of advice and the nuggets that are in here and formulate their own philosophies, because yours is very, very special. Jazz, thank you so much for your time today on Centre Court. For those of you at home, this has been an episode of Centre Court with Gerard Murphy. Thanks to Cobram Estate, Australia's most awarded extra virgin olive oil, grown, harvested and first cold pressed in Northern Victoria. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll be back with you again soon.